build controls, as we've discussed, are controls specifically about managing the risk for how software, specifically software artifacts, are built. So as an example, it can include multiple things. It can include software supply chain concerns, software composition analysis, vulnerability scanning. But for me, the foundational control around build is artifact binary provenance. This is a fancy term. It just means that when you build a piece of software, you record that fact in an immutable store. And the fact that you record is something that is tamper evident. So, a lot of words there, but let's start with, how do you identify software? You identify software. You could identify it by its file name. But that wouldn't be great because you can rename a file. And then is it the same file or a different file? You could put the Git SHA in the file name, for example. Again, you can modify that. So it's really hard to see whether it's been tampered with or not. So we understand that, okay, naming the thing isn't a good way to identify it. Well, what is a good way to identify it? Well, thankfully, cryptography has solved this problem for us in the sense of cryptographic digests. So it's just a fancy word for an algorithm where if you give it a bunch of bytes, it will give you a string of characters which uniquely identifies the content of those bytes. What that means is, if you have a file and you take its fingerprint, it gives you the fingerprint. Now, if you change any single digit inside that file, you'll get a different fingerprint. So it will no longer be the same. And that means you don't need to care about what is, what the file name is, where it came from, or so on. If you know that you built this Docker image in this build environment and you recorded that fact, when that Docker image shows up anywhere else, you know where it came from. That's what binary provenance means. You know where it came from. Okay, why is this a foundational control? As well, if you can't identify software, you can't build a chain of custody. You can't know what's running where. You can't know what you're testing. You can't know what you've scanned. You can't know what you've approved to go to an environment. It's such a foundational piece of the trust chain that it's often the first and most important control to implement with automation.